Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Shoemaker Report. The question we want to address tonight is, where do fears come from? And second to that, we want to ask the question, is it even possible to get rid of fears? Because fears seem to be somewhat of an existential problem with respect to people in general. We're facing now here in Israel a war. It's been going on for almost 2 years now. But besides that, it's been, hyped up a lot now, or ramped up because of the whole situation with Iran. And we have missiles flying down on us in some of the big cities, throughout the course of the night. And you guys see the pictures, so you know what's going on. If you look up in the reports and you try to find out what do people generally fear, what are the big categories of things that people fear, it's interesting because official surveys have been done about this. And what you find out is that, generally speaking, fears fall into 5 major categories. Number one is people are afraid of corrupt government officials. That makes sense. And that could include policemen and other types of government officials. Number two, people fear harm that could befall their loved ones. That's another big category. Number three, people fear war. So we're in that one. And also, harm to your loved ones. That's also related to what's happening today. And fourth is people are afraid of environmental catastrophes. And the fifth category is people fear, collapse in economy. And so obviously when you have more than one of these things operating at a time, people's fears can really get quite heightened. And that could lead to a lot of psychological and sociological problems, health problems for people and for society in general. So I want to start with a quotation from Likutei Moharan. If you want, I'll send these notes to you guys after, but I just got tied up today. I wasn't able to get everything done I wanted to. Anyway, it's in Likutei Moharan, Torah 15, right near the beginning, and it says the following: Mi she'rotze litom tan or ganuz. Somebody who wants to taste the flavor of the hidden light that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hid away for the tzaddikim from the very beginning of creation. Hainu sodot haTorah. That means the deep secrets of the Torah. These secrets will be revealed in the future. La'alot midat hayira l'sharasha, which means that person has to raise the attribute of fear, of yira, to its source. Great. What's that supposed to mean, and how do I go about doing it? Okay, that's what we're going to try to explain tonight. But the main point is that if we can achieve that, if we can do this, which is to actually raise up fear, we'll be able to literally taste and have a sense of the great secrets of the Torah that will only be revealed fully in the future. It says in Kohelet, very near the end, I think this is like the last pasuk of the entire Sefer. It says, Sof Davar. The end of the matter is as follows. Sof Davar, Hakol Nishma. After everything is all said and done, Et Elokim Yira. You have to fear God. You have to fear God. Vet mitzvotav shemor kizeh kol adam. And you have to keep Hashem's mitzvot, because that's the essence of what it means to be Adam, to be man. All right, so we have a responsibility. We are supposed to fear. We are supposed to fear, have this attribute of yira toward Hashem. That's the right thing we're supposed to be able to do. And there's a pasuk, you can write these pasukim down, look them up later if you like, but in Tehillim, chapter 111, in verse 10, it says, Reishi chokhmah yirat Hashem. That is the very beginning of any kind of chokhmah. You want to have chokhmah, wisdom, knowledge, however you want to translate the word. You want to have chokhmah, the place to start is, you have to have yira toward Hashem. You have to fear Hashem. So we need to do this. We need to have fear. That's the right kind of fear. But there is what's called fallen fear. And that's the fallen fears, that's the problem that Rebbe Nachman said earlier. We have to raise up the fallen fears back to their shorish, to their root, to their source. A couple examples. One is in Devarim, chapter 1, verse 29, or Devarim is Deuteronomy, if you're more used to that title, where it says in part, Lo tartzun velo tir'un mehem. This is Moshe Rabbeinu giving instructions to Bnei Yisrael when they're ready to enter into the land and conquer Eretz Yisrael. He says, don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of those people. So we see that we're supposed to have right kind of fear, which is fear toward Hashem, and we're not supposed to have fear toward other things, in this case, people. Another example of what the kind of fear we don't want to have is in Tehillim chapter 118, verse 6 says, Hashem li lo ira. Hashem is with me. David Melech says, Hashem is with me. I don't fear anything. Maya Adam, what can man possibly do to me? Well, you can say, what are you talking about? What can Hashem do to me? He can have, what can man do to me? He can have missiles raining down in Tel Aviv and in Haifa, and he can destroy buildings and kill people. What do you mean, what can man do to me? But see, the point is, it's not that what can man do to me, because man can be an agent of Hashem, which we're going to learn here in a bit, to execute Hashem's din upon us. For whatever reasons, we may be, quote, worthy of receiving this type of din. But the question is, without Hashem's permission, man has no authority. That's what David HaMelech is saying. When he says, again, he says, Hashem li lo ira ma yaseh li adam. Hashem is with me. There's nothing. I don't have to be afraid of anything that man can do, because he knows that whatever man does, quote, to me, is only coming because it's Hashem's judgment upon me. So therefore, I don't have to fear man. The fear is really directed toward Hashem. And if I were to have fear toward Hashem, then all my other fears would dissipate, which we'll see. And a last pasuk that brings this point is in chapter 91 in Tehillim. We say this after Shabbos. This is one of the pasukim we say after Shabbos. And it's also one of the pasukim we say before we go to bed. It's part of the Shema Alamita, the Shema that you say before you go to bed. It says in verse 5 and 6, it says the following: Lo tira mi pachad laila mechetz yauf yomam. Don't be afraid of this terror, these things that you would be afraid of in the nighttime, these things that fly around in the nighttime, or the fly around in the daytime. Well, you say, what's flying around in the day and the night? Well, David HaMelech is really talking about, angelic forces, but angelic forces guide and control physical forces when they're given permission to, like, for example, missiles. So he's saying, don't be afraid of these missiles that come flying, you could say, day and night. Midever ba'ofo yahalo, miketu yeshud sorayim, these plagues that kind of walk about, and these other kind of destroying forces, even in the afternoon. You're not supposed to be afraid of any of that stuff. So it's nice to say that. It's nice to read that. It might be a bit of a chizik for, a few moments. But the real question is, how do we actually internalize it? How do we get our heart to actually feel this way so that we really don't fear things and not just like read a pasuk? And so this is, again, I've said this many times before, but this is one of the reasons why I was drawn toward Rebbe Nachman, because I found that Rebbe Nachman didn't just say things like, have faith, or, you have to have more das, or whatever, or you need to be happy. He would explain, going through step by step by step, an actual physical process that you can go through in order to achieve a spiritual goal, a spiritual end result. And that's what, personally, that's what attracted me to the teachings of Rebbe Nachman, because he gave you it's really, his writings in many ways are a how-to manual in order to achieve spiritual progress. So we have the question, how do we therefore get rid of fears? Because they are real. Fears are actually real. And so the question is, how do we not just get rid of them? How do we elevate the fear? How do we elevate these fallen fears? We now learn that fallen fears are things like when we're afraid of people, we're afraid of other kinds of forces, we're afraid of Nazis, we're afraid of terrorists, we're afraid of, snakes, we're afraid of heights. Like, who knows what it is? But a lot of people have a lot of fears. So Rebbe Nachman explains, and we're going to read a few psukim on this, but not a whole lot in depth, because I don't want to go into I don't want this to be an hour. That when a person judges himself honestly and truthfully, and he speaks the truth out of his mouth, he doesn't just think it in his head, right? He's got to speak the words outside of his mouth, and he says that to Hashem. Say, for example, in Hitbodedut, every single day, talks to his Creator and tells Hashem, this is what I'm afraid of, or this is what I did wrong. This is how we elevate Yira. And we need to now unpack how that happens. What are the mechanics behind that? If I were just to simply tell Hashem, this I did wrong, and this I did wrong, and this I did wrong today, like we would say, cheshbon nefesh, we at the end of the day, or in the early morning, depending on how you do it, you assess your life and you admit, you just tell Hashem, I should have been more patient with my wife. I should have done this. I should have done that. Or whatever the case may be. And if we were to do that, we would find that the things that we normally are afraid of, we wouldn't be afraid of anymore. It's a really remarkable thing. So the question is, how does that work? So there's a beautiful medrash Rabbah in Shofatim, chapter 8, section 5 in Shofatim. It says the following. Rebbe Eliezer says the following. Im nasa din lamata en hadin nasa lamala. If we were to make judgment upon ourselves below, it means like down here in this world, like with our own life, then judgment will not be made from above. Vim lo nasa din lamata. But if we don't make judgment down here below, then hadin nasa lamala. Then din will be made above. Either way you look at it, din, judgment, is going to be passed because we're guilty. We've done crimes against Hashem and against each other, right? That's obvious. So the question is, din will be passed. That's not a question, that's a statement. The statement is, din will be passed. The question is, where is it going to be passed? From where is it going to be passed? Who's going to pass the judgment? So Rebbe Eliezer teaches us that we get first crack at it. Like what they call that, getting dibs, I think like that, right? If we were to judge ourselves down here below in our own life, then the heavenly courts up above, they don't have to do it. Like so they don't do it. On the other hand, if we don't do it down here, then the heavenly courts up above are saying, wait a second, O'Shea, he didn't judge himself today. He's got all these outstanding crimes and he didn't admit to them. There has to be judgment, there has to be din, there has to be mishpat, there has to be justice. So therefore, the heavenly courts take over. That's how it works. Either we go into court, we say, Hashem, we did this, we're sorry. Then the heavenly courts say, oh, look, this case has already been heard. And they just strike it off the docket. And if they find out that such and such a case wasn't heard, then they hold it. That's how it works. That's how mishpat, or justice, works. So we have first crack, which is a very beautiful thing to consider, actually. It's a very merciful thing for Hashem. And normally when you think about din or judgment or mishpat or justice, you think, oh, it's like hardcore. Where is there mercy in it? But really, there is mercy in it. The mercy in it is that Hashem says, I'll let you do it first. I'll give you the first opportunity. And it's not just that he's giving us the first opportunity. There's a real advantage to it, which we're going to see now. So this concept that Rebbe Eliezer is explaining here in the Medrash comes out from Tehillim chapter 119, the really, really long chapter of Tehillim, in verse 91, where David Melech writes, Lemishpatecha amdu hayom ki akol avadecha. Your judgments, Hashem says, David Melech says to Hashem, your judgments, they are standing today. In other words, every day there's judgments from Hashem. But the end of the pasuk is very interesting. It says, Ki hakol avadecha. Everything are your servants. What's that supposed to mean? Everything is your servants. So this is what is explained in the Gemara. We're going to see some examples about this because the Gemara actually explains this, and also Rebbe Nachman picks it up and also explains it. First, let's read again from Likutei Moharan 15, in subsection 2 there, the following that Rebbe Nachman writes. Kshofatim et adam b'mishpat. When they judge a person in mishpat, in justice, dile'ela, man, that means above. Azai hadin nitlabesh b'chol hadavarim. So when we don't do the judgment ourselves, what happens? The heavenly courts do. Great. Now what happens? So what happens is that din that was passed gets clothed in some kind of thing. That's what he says. It says, Hadin nitlabesh bechol ha-davarim. That judgment, let's think of it like a piece of paper. Whatever it is, it's some kind of a decree. It's a gezerah. It's a judgment from the court. And it gets clothed in things. What does that mean? Let's go on. V'chol hadarim na'asim shluchim lamakom la'asot b'zeh ish mishpat katuv. Everything can therefore be an agent of the heavenly court in order to execute on behalf of the court the justice that the court meted out. Anything. Now, normally we think of things coming to us like from say terrorists or from nations that are our enemies, like say the regime in Iran. But it can be anything. Pardon me. It can be anything. Very, very simple. Because Rebbe Nachman says here, anything, every little thing could be a shaliach, a messenger, to execute din. This is explained in the Gemara in page 41a in Masechet in the Darim. And two very kind of bizarre stories. And I think the reason that the Gemara picks these two bizarre stories because they are bizarre. So when you know that something is true when things are bizarre, then how much more are they true when things are, quote, normal? I think that's probably the reason why the Gemara does this. I'll just talk you through these stories. They're very short. You can look them up later in the Darim, page 41a. First story is a story of a man who was riding on a small little mule. And this is a true story. This is a true story. He's riding on a little mule, and he comes to a bridge, a really narrow bridge, crossing some kind of a gully or a ravine. All of a sudden, he's like halfway across the bridge, and all of a sudden, the mule goes crazy and lunges up and bucks the rider off, and the rider falls all the way down to his death in the river below. End of story. That's a great story, Hashem. No, but the point is, the Gemara says that's an actual fulfillment of that pasuk we just read from Tehillim that says that ki hakol avadecha, everything is Hashem's servants. Everything. In this case, what was Hashem's servant? The mule. The mule conspired with the bridge and the river. And they all acted in concert to execute Hashem's judgments against that man. Why that man was guilty of dying in a river, I have no idea. Who knows why? Hashem knows why. All the angelic messengers that were responsible for the court, they all know why. Was it just? Yes, it was just. That's like difficult sometimes for us to grasp, though. Especially when you see like people here in the country, and they're killed by missile strikes. Is that fair? Why did they get singled out? So why did this mule buck him off and have him fall down into the river? Because a judgment came from Shemayim that said that's what must be. Maybe you don't like that, but that's the truth. Okay, the next story that comes from the Gemara is it's even weirder. It's a story of a scorpion. It's this little scorpion. And the scorpion, and when we were in Syria many years ago, believe it or not, I was in Syria for like a month when I was in my 20s. So that's many years ago. And we used to go digging for scorpions. You'd be out in the desert and you'd find these little holes and you'd take your trowel and you just dig and, go down a little ways and you pop them out and the scorpions would come out. They'd be like, go trying to sting whatever, just, dug them out of their little burrow. But anyway, that's what we did for fun. That's true. You remember that there?
No, I never did that.
You didn't do that? Oh, yeah. Okay, anyway, so the story of a scorpion, and the scorpion was crossing a river, another river story, on the back of a frog. So you got this frog going across the river, and the scorpion is on his back, hitching a ride. This is a literal true story. It's not just like it's not some kind of a medrash, fairy tale trying to teach you something, Kabbalistic. Maybe there is Kabbalistic things to learn here, but just on the Pasha level, this is a real true story. What happened? The scorpion gets on the other side, jumps off of the frog. Thank you very much, frog, for the free ride. And then what happens? There's a man on the other side of the river, and the scorpion stings the man, and he dies of the sting bite from the scorpion. Boy, what a bad day for that guy. You could say it's like. But there was a gezer from Shemayim that said that man needed to die today. So the scorpion and the frog, and again the river, were shluchim, were messengers on behalf of the heavenly court to execute the din from Shemayim. That's what David HaMelech says in Tehillim 119 when he said again, just read it again. It says, Lemishpatecha amdu ayon. Your judgments stand today. It's not just Hashem, ruled back then in the old days and that was it. No, Hashem, his judgments stand today. Ki hakol avadech, because everything is Hashem's messengers. They're all his servants. That's what Rebbe Nachman is picking up on. That's what Rebbe Eliezer taught in the Medrash, and that's what the Gemara teaches. So great. So we understand how judgment gets passed. But what about us? Well, what about us? Well, the key is the following: that the reason that we fear these things, let's say, put it into modern context. So these are kind of weird stories, but put into a modern context. Let's say of sirens, or missiles, or Hamasniks. What is it causes people to be afraid of these things? Is it the thing itself? Not according to the teachings of our Torah. According to the teachings of our Torah, the reason that people are afraid of those things is they're not actually afraid of those things. They're just messengers. The messengers are messengers carrying and carrying out the din from Shemayim. So what is it that we're really afraid of? The din from Shemayim. That's what we're really afraid of. We have an inherent fear of the din that comes out of the court. You go into court. People are afraid to go into court. Nobody who's I get to go to court today. It's like, going into court is a scary thing. And when the court, the judge or the jury, and they pass, some verdict on you, and it's not a pleasant one, you're going to feel, oh no, I've just been sentenced to whatever. I've been sentenced to 5 years in prison. I've been sentenced to pay $1 million fine. Whatever, community service, and all of a sudden your insides are like going into knots. That's what you fear. You fear the verdict. You fear the mishpat. You fear the din. You fear the gezerah. Now that's exactly the same thing happening when the missiles go off, or the sirens go off, or the Hamasniks go off, or the Arabs are trying to, come out of an alleyway and scare you or whatever. Those are just agents of the court. What you're really fearing are the verdicts that the heavenly court issued. Why? Because we didn't do it ourselves. That's the key. That's the key. So we're actually afraid, ki'ilu, of the real din that's embedded inside, that's clothed in the messenger. The messenger. What is inherent about a missile that you're gonna be afraid of a bunch of metal or some chemicals? Well, it isn't. It's not even logical. But if you know that missile is an agent of Hashem to carry out Hashem's judgment against certain people, maybe I'm included in that. Chas v'shalom. Oh, now I'm afraid. See, that's how it works. So if we judge ourselves, then therefore no judgments of above have to be made. Then the heavenly court gets dismissed, and then there's nothing down here to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of. And literally, you will find if you do this, if you take time every single day in Hitbodedut to tell Hashem what you did wrong, and just, I forget the expression, fess up, and come to Hashem with a broken heart, then what's going to happen? The heavenly court will adjourn. They will not hear your case. Therefore, no judgments will be issued from Shemayim. There'll be nothing to be clothed in anything. Nothing will be a messenger against you. And as a result, you can walk around and not be afraid of anything, because you already judged yourself. So the more we judge ourselves, the better off we're going to be, and the less we're going to be afraid of stuff. Mamash, literally. It's like a huge secret. If you imagine about this, somebody recently posted a nice little video. Actually, I told the person to post it. I saw it somewhere else, but I said you should share that with our group, because it's a really important lesson. The major distinction between Freud and Adler. Freud always looked back, look back into your past and find people and things to blame. And all that does is that just breeds a whole industry of therapists that just kind of tries to get you out, but not really. Whereas Adler teaches, don't. Look into the future. Look toward what you want to become. That's very much like Rebbe Nachman says. Don't be trapped in the past. Admit the past, acknowledge the past, and move on. Move on. And then there's nothing to be afraid. You don't have to be trapped in the past at all. And so all of the therapists who deal with people that have chronic fear, they would be out of a job. Let them be out of a job. They'll go, maybe they'll open up a nice little ice cream shop somewhere. It's going to do society better, they make the kids happy. No ice cream. It'll be a wholesome ice cream. Be all 100% organic ice cream. Don't worry. Okay. So another statement from Rebbe Nachman, also in Likutei Moharan 15. He says the following: V'zehu she'adam mefached et atzmo me'ez davar misar. Somebody's afraid of like a government official. Genavim, like thieves, umishar pachdim, or some other kind of thing that people fear. Zehu shehayira nitlabesh bazeh hadavar, because fear itself got enwrapped, got clothed in these things. Ki im lo haya nitlabesh hayira bazeh hadavar, if in fact fear did not get wrapped up in those things, therefore that thing would not have any power in and of itself to cause fear in a man. It wouldn't. Think about the power of that teaching. That means that the missiles would not have any power to strike fear in people. The sirens wouldn't have any power to cause fear in people. The terrorists wouldn't have they would have no power to cause fear in people. That's what he's teaching. Tremendous power, and it's all within our hand. All we have to do is judge ourselves. Oh, but I don't want to. Huh? Because everybody has a choice to make. Everybody can make a choice. B'ezrat Hashem, sometimes I come back to this concept of Hitbodedut time and time again, because it's so easy to say, oh, I don't want to do it. Hitbodedut is not necessarily an easy avoda. It's not, especially if you do it according to Rebbe Nachman's teachings, which is you spend 1 hour every single day. 1 hour every single day? So you don't have to sit there and tell Hashem all the terrible things you did every single day for a whole hour. Like I said before, you want to be able to walk around and be happy for the rest of the day. But you want to thank Hashem, you want to sing to Hashem, you want to be joyful. Yes, but for part of it, you should spend serious time just saying, I really messed up here, messed up there. And then beg Hashem, please dismiss the courts. I'm doing my best to admit it to you already, so there's no reason to have any court case against me. And you pour out your heart like that. And if you do that on a regular basis, I guarantee you, based on the words of Rebbe Nachman, based on the words of Chazal, based on the words of Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol, and based on the words of David Melech, you will find whatever existential fears you have, you will find them disappearing. Literally disappearing. To conclude, I wanted to quote a part of one of the brachas from Shemona Esrei, because sometimes we read these brachas and we don't think about them as deeply as we could, put it that way. So this is the bracha of Mishpat. I forget which number it is. If you count numbers, I don't remember the number exactly where. But it says the following: Hashiva shofetenu k'varishino v'yotzenu k'vatchila v'aser b'menu yagon v'anacha. So in translation it says, Hashem, return our judges, like at the beginning, like they were, where they had these great judges in the beginning, like Moshe and Aaron, for example, and return our counselors, like our lawyers, our defense counsel. Let us have those great attorneys of old that we had a long time ago. And remove from us all this feeling of agony that we have, and all this groaning and moaning and agony and suffering in our hearts. So fine, that's the plain pashut meaning of the words. But look deeper now. You should be able to understand exactly what you're also praying for. Who is the judge you're really praying for? Is it, the whatever it is, 11 members of the Israeli High Court, or the 9 members of the American Supreme Court? Is that who we're really praying to have established? Good judges? No, not at all. The deeper meaning of this bracha is that we want to have better judges. Who are the judges? Us. We're praying to Hashem, may I and all Klal Yisrael, may we all become better judges. like we were in the beginning, when we had an ability to judge ourselves much more honestly and much more effectively. Because then what? The rest of the statement says, because what? Then you will remove from us all this yagon v'anacha, all the groaning and moaning that we have. Because all the groaning and moaning comes from our fears. And as a result, because we won't judge us, not only does the heavenly courts have to judge us, also we end up with physical courts that judge us. Just imagine a world where you didn't need any physical courts because everybody was honest with themselves and was honest with Hashem. You did something wrong, you admitted it. So all of a sudden, you're not oppressed by the courts anymore. Because there's honesty and truth. That's really what it comes down to. It's honesty and truth. Truth. There's a famous expression, truth and justice, the American way, or what, truth and justice for all. Well, because truth and justice are right in the middle column. That's where they are. Truth and justice are right there in the middle. They're balancing between, not balancing, but they're a combination of both chesed and gevurah. You need the two together in order to have truth, in order to have mishpat, in order to have justice. So really, we're the judges that we're praying to Hashem about, that we would be better judges, and then we judge ourselves, we wouldn't have any fears. In a nutshell, that's it. That's exactly how we get rid of fears. Number one, fears are real. They really do exist. It's not just imagination. There is an actual substance that our fears are actually attached to, that's external to ourselves. That's true. They really are. And what is it? It's not the thing. It's the thing inside the thing. It's the din from Shemayim. That's the real source of our fear. And that's what's called fallen fears. Because fear is real. Fear is a real attribute in the universe. It's a part of creation. Yira, fear. It can be fallen, meaning that we fear all the stuff. We fear terrorists, we fear Iranians, we fear missiles, we fear whatever. We fear policemen, whatever. Tax collectors, another good thing to fear, right? Or we know, I'm not going to fear those things. I'm going to judge myself. And then what happens is Yira gets restored to its proper place, which means that we fear Hashem only. So that's where we began. When Rebbe Nachman said that what's the reward, Kilu? How do we eventually begin to taste the flavor and the taste of the Or Ganuz, this hidden messianic light? How? We have to raise fear up to its source. We discussed now, we explained exactly what it means. How do you really raise fear to its source? It means I only am afraid of Hashem. I'm only going to fear Hashem. I'm only going to fear, reverence, however you want to translate the word with respect to Hashem. But clearly, no fallen fears, no lower fears at all. And we've learned now how to do that. B'ezrat Hashem, it's up to every individual how much he's going to dedicate his time in Hitbodedut to do this. The reward is clear. I tried to explain the reward for all of us. And the reward will not just be a reward in this world, that you won't be afraid of things that you don't want to be afraid of anymore. But B'ezrat Hashem, it'll have an eternal reward forever, because you just go from level to level to level, up and up and up in the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so until next time, have yourselves a great week. This is the Shoemaker Report with Hosea Allen. Make sure that you subscribe, click on the like button down below.